I'm Stacey Bullman. Thank you for having me on Online Prosperity. I'm the CEO and founder of M.E.D.I.A Consulting. What I hope you can expect today to find is a little bit more about believing in yourself, as well as strategy, planning, and the preparation to success and to being better.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place to discover how everyday people turn challenges into clarity and build a prosperous business or a successful life. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And if you've ever maybe worked in corporate and maybe I know it can feel like you're running a marathon in dress shoes. Well, I'll tell you something. Our guest today has literally run 3 marathons, official, and a lot more, as she's going to be explaining. And she's actually metaphorically run even more in the business world. And I can't wait to introduce you to Stacey. Now, Stacey, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Prosper. Thanks for having me today.
Fantastic. I'm glad you're here. And as long as you're not mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you.
Good on you. So for those that are tuning in, today we're joined by Stacey Bullman, the founder of I'm Not Mad at You Consulting, a firm that's redefining what it actually means to make people and companies better. And she comes with over 80,000 hours of experience and processes that are proven to work 85% faster than any traditional consulting that's out there. So Stacey and her team help leaders cut through the noise and actually make smarter decisions and future-proof their success. So if you've ever felt maybe stuck in corporate chaos and you're unsure how to adopt at today's pace, I'm not talking about marathons here, but hey, that could also be an option. Or you just simply want to stop being mad at how slow any progress kind of feels. I think this episode will be that reset button you've been waiting for. Now, Stacey, I can't even catch my breath just trying to introduce you on this. And you know, you've obviously been at this for quite a while before the 25 years that you've spent in corporate America. Give us a glimpse into who Stacey was and, you know, what the world looked like then.
In corporate America, it was, it was fun. It was a fight. It was furious. I guess a lot of F's, but in the beginning, it was very exciting, and I was fortunate enough to have a lot of success and climb the ladder fairly quickly. So in the beginning, it was, as I said, fast and furious, and I was able to ride to the top pretty quickly and have management responsibilities, P&L responsibilities. And the minute you are managing humans and managing a profit and loss statement, you certainly start having differing, opinions and takes on, how things are working and your contribution to them and the importance of some of these things. And at the end of the day, most of what I realized was my role was to pick up the phone every day and address a problem. Because when you're managing a team of 500 people, nobody ever picks up the phone to call you and tell you everything is great out here. We're just smooth sailing. So you pretty much, every time you picked up the phone, you were there to solve a problem. You were there to be a kind ear to somebody who was going through a problem or had an issue, and that was going to be the reason they weren't going to be able to fulfill the commitment that they had promised in their job or responsibility with, the different roles that these people serve. So it was, at a certain point, you started recognizing, as I said, as I climbed the ladder, that your role was then shifting from maybe being very tactical and excellent when you're at the field level and your middle management, when you start getting into leadership, it becomes more about the strategy and the tactics of how to accomplish things versus, as I said, in the middle and the lower tiers, it was very much objective, do thing, go on to next objective. And that was very concrete. Once you got into leadership and management, things were not as black and white. There was a lot of gray. And at the end of the day, because all the companies I was working with were for profit, your ultimate responsibility was to do your job and at profit.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for opening us up with that. Now, for one to sort of get that aspiration to want to climb the ladder and keep doing and things of that nature, there would have been some sort of motivation. As a kid, was this the life that you had envisioned? Or, I don't know, I've got a 6-year-old right now who is adamant she wants to be a princess, and sometimes it goes between princess and witch, so I don't know which to support.
Right.
What was the aspiration growing up?
Just support it all. Honestly, I had parents that did support whatever I said, however crazy it was. As I say, they believed in me, and
Right.
that really gave me a high level of belief in myself. When I was a child, I wanted to be a doctor first, then a lawyer, and it morphed from after I had graduated college, I was exhausted and didn't envision one more day of school. And so that became get into corporate America. And I had a degree in marketing. So sales and leadership were not necessarily, if you looked at personality testing and things like that, I didn't necessarily test highly when it came to maybe leading people or managing people, or I didn't have a degree in accounting or finance, but I was fortunate enough to, go slow and have these different positions where you were learning those different things. So, in the beginning it was, like I said, it was fulfilling and it was fun. Like,
Mm. So the parents believed in you. Was the belief mainly,
oh yeah.
because some kids are sporty, some kids are academic, some kids are, artistic. What was the belief that they had strongly in the things that you did?
I was sporty. I was very sporty. I started with soccer at 6 and scored 31 of my team's 32 goals.
Wow.
And at 8 years old, tennis began. And from that point, I think soccer ended when I was 12 and it became full-time tennis. And I was extraordinarily successful with that. And my mom has insisted that I was born with this belief. I absolutely insist that they instilled the belief. I would not argue with my mom. I believe on certain levels, I think she probably was right. There are things I can look back and I know, like, I just believed in me, whether they did or they didn't, I did. But I think that's a combination. I certainly think it helps to have parents that do instill the belief. And then they had a child that was high in belief and they never ever squashed that. And when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, oftentimes that looked like cocky or arrogant or very confident. And my parents never squashed that. They never ever were like, no, no, no. When parents or other people are like, she's so cocky or confident, they're like, she's 6. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's 6. If she believes she's good, why would we say that she wasn't? Or why would we make her believe otherwise, especially since I was good? There wasn't some delusion that, maybe I was, where some parents, I do think some parents maybe, it needs to be based on some reality in terms of, I think my parents believed in me because they did see the rewards and they saw the different credentials in terms of the things that I was doing as a child, where I might be winning this or leading that, or different things that they were able to see. That it wasn't like they just blindly believe. They got to see the results often of these times that their child heavily believed in herself, and then she went up there and did things. So there was, I guess, they got to testimonials. They have to be witnesses to a lot of times the things that I did that were, I guess, maybe impressive, whatever it was. I don't think I thought that much about it. I really was driven.
Mm.
I was very driven. It was me. It was, they, as I said, I think that they were witnesses, but I don't know, like my mom insists it was how I came out.
Oh, absolutely. You see, the thing is, half of the time when our environment allows us to actually believe in ourselves, then we will. But some people are brought up in such environments that don't allow them, or they're clipped because
Oh,
maybe back in that time or even now, some kids are brought up in the kids are meant to be seen and not heard sort of scenarios, which then translates into how they then present at work. And could that have been maybe the reason that half of the phone calls you were receiving as a manager, where people just telling you what's wrong because nobody had given those people permission to actually work on said problems themselves?
quite possibly. I mean, I think it was for a lot of reasons. It was sometimes it's an easy call. That person's right there. Sometimes you're right. I think ideally, as you said, maybe they didn't have other people in their lives that fostered, the safe place to call and ask a question. I'm sure it was every range of reasons, right? Also, as a manager, I warn people there is every range of human being out there working for you, and this falls along with statistics, as I also am a big fan of. Is 10% of the people are giving you more than you'll ever deserve, and they'll give you more than you ever deserve. Okay. There's another 10% of people that are doing nothing but taking from you, period. They're doing nothing but taking from you. That leaves the other 80% of people that are somewhere in the spectrum of giving and taking. And your job as a manager is to kind of pay attention to those 10%, like really make sure you foster the people that are doing amazing things for you and try to facilitate them to continue that, and weed out the people that are taking from you. The other 80% are probably good enough. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but you probably have to spend most of your time on those 10% ranges, on those ends. But a lot of managers spend all that time in the 80% range. And I say, no, those people are probably doing fine. Worry about the ends, not that middle part.
Absolutely. You know what you just brought up here is pretty much life in and of itself. There's so many things that take up a lot of our energy. And, like they say, the squeakiest wheel gets the, gets the oil, right? So many things take up our energy and so many things give to us. But yet we want to focus on the things that we think are in that sort of comfort zone and things that are
Yes.
now you were sort of taken, like you did say, from the floor into C-suite and managerial sort of space. A lot of people that I talk to that have had that progression usually say they did not have a lot of support while they were entering into those roles, and they had to literally figure it all out for themselves. Now, for your sort of experience, what was that distribution like?
A mix. In some situations, you're dropped in the fire, and in some situations, I had managers tell me they're dropping me in the fire, and their expectation is that you'll figure this out. And in fact, the quote was, "And when you make a mistake, we'll tell you." And I remember saying to that particular manager, "I would prefer that you go ahead and tell me the rules now, and I'll abide by them." And that manager said, "Nope, that's not how we work at this company." And then there were other scenarios where I had amazing managers who taught me incredible skills and talents that I was able to mimic, copy, emulate. And in every one of those situations, I tell people, most of my skill sets came from watching another person do something well. Same as my athletic endeavors. I watched other people do something well. I practiced others' techniques. Same thing in sales. I treat this just like you would a sport. You practice. You're going to go speak in front of another person, go in front of the mirror, film yourself, see what you look like, see some of your bad characteristics. It's just like everything we do, I believe, not to bring everything to a sporting metaphor, but whatever it is, what is it? A war metaphor, a sporting metaphor? They're just metaphors for life. I do think that proper preparation prevents poor performance in all aspects of our life. So I believe that's the mentality we should take to all things.
Absolutely. And so many people just want to show up in the sporting arena and hope that all chips are gonna fall their way and things of that nature. But you did this for over 80,000 hours, which is pretty much 25 years that you gave to corporate America. And I would think, like anything else, this was training ground for you. Like if we're still on sporting metaphors, you were literally training for what was about to come next. You then went on and created I'm Not Mad at You consultancy. First of all, who were you talking to that you're not mad at?
Ooh, no one's asked that question. I don't Listen, I know that everything I've done successfully in life, I was probably mad or angry with somebody or something. Be it somebody said I couldn't do something, somebody said I wouldn't ever be able to, accomplish that thing. I've definitely been driven by somebody saying something wasn't possible, for sure. So probably there is some motivation in the I'm not mad at you into proving people that maybe I could do this very thing. Because to be fair, the people that believed in me and all the other areas of my life previous to me starting this company, interestingly, when I started the company, shied away from showing that full support. I was surprised. I can't blame them. I would imagine that if somebody told you they were going to start a consulting company called I'm Not Mad at You, and the vision was not completely clear for me to be able to present to everybody in the beginning. So I could see why I didn't have everybody's full belief. But I'd already named the company by the time I was telling people, but I would imagine, if anything, approving to people that I could do something like leave corporate America, be able to live anywhere in the world, run this consulting company. I'm sure that's a good 95% of where I'm Not Mad at You fits into that story.
I love that. I love that. But you see, the thing is, when we're showing up in the world, a lot of people that are around us put us in a little bit of a box, even though we like it or we don't, because humans always have this shortcut of, oh, that's Stacey and she's got I'm Not Mad at You, or she's working in corporate America. When you then present with a whole different thing, they have to readjust where they had put you in their space. And not a lot of people like burning calories trying to figure out what are you doing next and having to worry if it's going to work out for you or not. But you obviously had that belief in yourself, which obviously you've gone ahead and had a tattoo. What was the moment that you realized, you know what, I could do this better, I could do this faster, and then you decided to step out on your own?
Always. I know that for a fact. Always. At 30 years old, I had a manager. We were a bunch of team leaders, and they were giving away different little quotes that would kind of encapsulate a person. And this manager gave me this packet that said idiocracy. There's no underestimating how stupid people can be in groups or something like that. And I gave this to Stacey because she thinks everybody is stupid and nothing is being done well. And it was, it was a joke. It was a gag gift, but it's true. Like my mom always said that. I mean, working for every manager I ever had, I always thought I could do things better, more efficiently, more effectively. Always, it was always more efficiently. I know with every manager that was not managers that I lined up with, it was always a battle of them trying to make the job harder or more difficult, or trying to skin the cat in a way that to me was not effective or efficient. So I always fought that always. I think that was back to what we said. That was in me from the get-go. I really believe it was in me from the get-go to do and run this company. I had to, though, do all these other things in life before I was ready to be able to counsel people, guide people, mentor people, coach people, understand a profit and loss statement, understand marketing from the Fortune 100 companies, understand forecasting, sales planning, marketing plans, understand all that.
Mhm.
So, all those years were putting in my stripes, putting in the work, putting in the hours, so that when I did start this company, that I would with certainty know that I could guide, lead, and consult other companies into success and being
Absolutely.
better.
Now, that kind of belief in oneself really trumps any, disbelief that anybody else would have had around that. But there comes a time where corporate America presents a nice paycheck at the end of the month. And when you're starting on your own, there's not a lot of that going on. Now, wasn't that scary, or how did you go past
God,
that?
yes. Of course. Of course. Of course. It was scary. And I lived a good life. I mean, I lived a very good life. And there's the other perks, right? You got the gold cards, you got the points, you got the miles, you got the hotels. I mean, it's not even what you had. It was, you also had all this other stuff on the side because of all the traveling and the perks and the benefits. So the good dinners, the cool restaurants, you definitely had, if you got to a certain point in corporate America, it was not all that bad. So you're right. It was definitely concerning on some levels in terms of my lifestyle and, would I be able to continue to enjoy traveling, to enjoy the fun things that I was doing in life and the spoils of the work that I had put in? Of course. However, I'd like to think that I started a business when I was 27 and that did not end up succeeding. And so, therefore, at 47, when I started the second business, I'd like to think that I had better planned and had a better strategy as well as more financial backing to make sure that I was going to be successful. And I say this to everyone, if you're going to do something like this, you really want to have 18 months to 2 years of the nest egg, and not just the nest egg for what it cost you to live, but also for what it's going to cost you to successfully manage your business, spend money on sales and marketing to be able to devote the money to have a successful business. So it's, properly forecasting the expected cost to run that business and your cost to manage you as a household or whatever you look like. So really, that was something that I understood a lot better the second go around, that I needed to have the seed money, the capital, whatever you want to call it, to be able to go 2 years and make sure that I gave this the amount of time to be successful. And I did. And it took 15 months, 15 months, as I had projected.
Absolutely. And as you would understand, and you love stats, don't you? It's about 85% of businesses don't go past the 3 year mark. And I think
Correct.
that's where, everything that you're talking about starts to come unraveled.
Yep.
Year number one, you still probably have a bit to go by. And also, you still are connected with your ex colleagues. And then year number two, those people are sort of sending referrals. But year number three, you're on your own now. And that's when it actually starts for everything else. But you work with leaders and help them make decisions 85% faster than obviously traditional consulting. Tell us, what's the secret sauce behind all this speed and clarity?
A couple things. We have an assessment process that we're able to go into an organization and very quickly assess whatever it may be, a service, a product, a leader. We use a simple tool that we took when we got life coach certified. This tool was called the Wheel of Life, and it used a wheel with 8 different attributes to assess how happy somebody was in life. And I decided to take that tool and adapt it for the business environment. And so we created wheels that would assess a product, a service, a leader, as we said. And you went into the organization and quickly were able to interview the individuals in the company on these 8 attributes with simple answers where it wasn't intimidating. I took the time to interview the people in the company. Usually within 2 weeks, we had a full assessment of the company between looking at their profit and loss statements and this assessment within their company. We literally were within 2 weeks giving them the roadmap to improvement to their company, whereas the majority of consulting companies, certainly that I have been familiar with, usually have that 90-day, give us 90 days, we'll get in there, we're going to get under the hood, and then we'll come back with a report for you. And I didn't like that. And certainly in my experience in corporate America, that's generally how most of the consultants were operating, under that 90-day, we'll come in here and be intrusive and then give you some web online surveys. They very rarely talk to the individuals in the company, so I felt that that was very important. If I was going to work with companies where there was employees, that we'd talk to the employees, we would get their answers, not just the leaders' answers. And that was able to be done in 2 weeks versus 90 days. So that's where we came up with the math of being 85% faster than other consulting companies. Then we've been able to have so many other processes since the beginning where we look at the profit and loss statement. Oftentimes, if they hire us and they provide us the profit and loss statement, by the first time we have a Zoom call, we're already having conversations about their business, their profit and loss statement, and my assessment of ways that they can immediately be more efficient, be it on the profit side or the loss side of that expense report, like on the sale, on the cost versus the revenue. And immediately we're in their business. So another area why we say we're so much quicker is oftentimes consultants will come in, they'll have a class, a course, a book that they want you to read. And we say, like, we're not going to waste your time with our course, with our class, with our book, whatever it may be. We're going to come in on day one and be looking at your business, your profit and loss statement, your people, your problems. I don't need to teach you about my methods. Do you know what I mean? Like, who cares? When a leader has come to you in crisis or distress or acknowledging that they need help, which is a really vulnerable thing for a leader to acknowledge. So I always feel like if the leader is opening themselves up to our company, and I'm not mad at you to make them better, we're going to handle that vulnerability with care. We're not going to be mad at them. We're going to find that they've been making a lot of mistakes. We're going to probably hear from the employees that the leader's done a lot of dumb things, maybe. That's okay. We're not mad at them. We're there to solve the problem, to carefully craft, the message around how we get past that hurdle, and bing, bing, boom, problem solved. And you're not getting a report telling you, like, go do these things. Do you know what I mean? Like, we work very dynamically with our clients. We partner with them. So it's not also just us saying, do this. It's usually discussing it, talking about things they've tried before, talking about things that were successful, talking about things that were not successful. Then usually after having talked to the employees, they've given me a bunch of ideas, but they're not that good at usually tying it up in a bow and C-suite conversation. So a lot of times, like, we should do this on Fridays, and they don't really tie it up really well, so the leader doesn't hear them. When I'm able to take that good idea that they have and gift wrap it to the leader in a much more palatable way, then that employee feels heard, the leader feels like they're doing something substantial, and you just have a lot of people that are on the same bus, going the same direction and rooting for that team to be successful and that company to be successful. And ultimately, that's the goal, is right. Like, somebody should be speaking on behalf of the company. It shouldn't always be the employees and the employer. There's somebody that needs to be speaking on behalf of the company so that it survives past 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, all those critical benchmarks in a company's stature, to survive. So oftentimes you hear too much from the employees and the employer, but hello, as a consultant, we say, listen, we represent all 3 angles of the pyramid, but we really ultimately are the voice and the spokesperson for the company, because our goal is to make sure it stays alive, regardless of how we'll stay alive. I'm sure this will segue nicely into there are going to be varying ways that companies will stay alive for this next phase, shall I call it, of the pace of things going so much more quickly. The resources necessary to accomplish the tasks are there at our fingertips so much more quickly without mistake. So it is interesting times that we're coming upon in terms of being on top of it and making sure you are assessing your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats, and moving quickly, making decisions quickly. Pragmatism is good to some degree, but with leadership, your responsibility is making decisions quickly, decisively, and intelligently, and with the right due diligence.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the duck gracefully swimming in the river. On top of the water, it seems like it's just nicely gliding, but at the bottom, the feet are pedaling so fast, and I quite like that. And I like what you've just said there, because it brings us back to how you were handling your roles while you were in corporate, because you had people ring you up and tell you what was going, and you then made sense of that information and crafted strategies out of that. Now you're just doing that for other people at record speed, whereas they would have just been going at it and both parties were not being represented or listened to and understanding each other. And I feel like that is such a different way of doing things, because, as you say, traditional consultants just come in, look at what benchmarks in the industry do, and then they say, you guys are not there, so you need what we have. And they're not exactly looking at what are those things that actually need to be moved. But when you're looking at this, there's a lot of clarity and there's a lot of execution that happens there. But I feel like there's courage that needs to be had for people to trust that this is the thing that's going to work, as opposed to what the traditional way would have been. Do you maybe come across some people who say, we've always done things like this around here, and things of that nature?
Come on. Of course I have. Of course I have. Lots. But back to generally the leaders that bring me on board understand a little bit about who they've hired. And I'm pretty clear in the initial conversations around, I hope you're okay with that. It's all, in all likelihood, not going to be status quo if I'm coming in here and doing this thorough of an assessment, and we'll have probably lots to contribute to pushing you past the we've always done it this way. And I will say, generally, the companies that hire us are not generally the companies that are saying out loud, we've always done it that way, because they're spending I'm not free. So they are spending money. So it's not the smartest thing to have someone like myself come in there and then kind of fight back and say, we're going to do it the way we always have. That doesn't mean that hasn't happened. I have worked with many a company over the past 10 years, and there are some companies that will bring you in, allow you to meet with their people, allow you the access to their profit and loss statements, and then you can give them the best laid plans and ideas, and they oftentimes do nothing with that. And something I say is, we've actually never had a client when we've jumped off from a client, or they've jumped off from us. We've never had a client come back, because really the reason that they jumped off, or I jumped off, in most cases it's that I'm not mad at you jumps off the bus, is because they're not listening. And I'm not mad at you is successful about 99.9% of the time when our clients listen. That in the beginning was very difficult. I didn't have any statistics to tell anybody. So I just had to tell people, I'm good. I promise you, I'm good. I've done all these things in corporate America. I promise you I'm good. And it was frustrating. It really was. And I recommend this to a lot of people. When you're starting a business, you're going to, everything you've done in the past, when you start the shingles as your own business, it doesn't really count when you did it for somebody else. So it's frustrating, so in the beginning, I'm sitting there trying to tell people I'm really good. Now it is fun. I have 10 years of statistical data to sit behind, so I get to say it with a lot more confidence and clarity to say that when our clients did not listen, it doesn't work. When they listen, it absolutely works. So far, every single time. I'm even a little, like sometimes I have to take pause and be like, wow, you did good. But I will tell you, I don't think I reinvented any wheels. I don't. I really believe I learned the processes of the Fortune 100 companies, of business 101, shall we call it, some basic math, and I'm very disciplined to following those things. And in my consulting, I'm very disciplined in how I consult for my clients to do those things as well. So back to, there's no wheel that's been reinvented. It is, I fully believe in the systems and the processes to successful businesses, no matter what the industry, no matter what the company, it's the same. You follow the same process. It's just sometimes it's more sophisticated. Sometimes your avenues don't look traditional. It doesn't matter. Every business has the same essential game plan to being successful.
Absolutely. I quite like that whole hands-on approach. And I'm also, really leaning into the passion that you have in what it is that you're doing. And it actually shows. Now, a lot of our viewers might be looking at this and, just thinking, well, sounds well and truly good, but I'm drowning in complexity. I've just been placed into this role, or this whole thing has just been put upon me. So much data, too little direction, and that's what a lot of people are sort of experiencing. What's the one maybe step that somebody can take, first of all, to regain clarity, and then maybe look at what to focus on?
Sure. I mean, take a step back, right? And any task that we have, I think in any aspects of our life, it's sort of take a step back, look at the tasks that need to be completed, understand the priorities, right? Like every day, most human beings are faced with probably more tasks to do than they can probably accomplish, right? That's pretty common that most people have more to do in a day than they're going to be able to do. So what we are responsible for, or what we're tasked with, is deciding what's the priority each day. And that's the same thing for a leader. It's, yes, you might have 43 things on your list of things to do that day. What you have to do as a leader is recognize, okay, these 10 things are absolutely, I must do these 10 things. Then you get down and you do those 10 things. You hold yourself disciplined. And then the next day you come in and you tackle that list, and there's going to be 10 more things on there. So we're constantly, as leaders, reshuffling the deck of priority. We're never probably going to finish all of our tasks every single day. That kind of comes with being a leader, is sort of buying into maybe in other roles in your life, you were able to sort of finish the day and finish the job. That's definitely not the case with a leader. Your job every day is to come in, look at the tasks in front of you, prioritize, and tackle, and constantly reshuffle that list for the different, complexities that happen throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year. So that challenge exists for every single leader. That challenge exists for every single person.
And speaking of challenges, I mean, obviously, when somebody comes in, like you say, they tackle whatever is imminent, and then go through their day. What sort of mistakes do you see even the smartest of leaders making over and over again? Because let's be honest, fish don't see the water they swim in, and they might not even realize that this no longer works, and it might be costing them growth.
I would say probably the thing I hear the most is they're too busy.
Right.
Almost without fail, the thing you would hear the most from a leader in terms of maybe the reasons they can't accomplish things, or they can't, prioritize their list, whatever you may want to say, is they'll use time. And I go back to, we are all given the same hours in the day. We all have that challenge as well. And busy can't be your excuse for not accomplishing high priority tasks. I worked with a client recently who was telling me that they had put their sales and marketing plan to the back burner to kind of focus on operations. And I'm not mad at you fashion. I reared up and I said, I'm sorry, but this is my responsibility to look at you and tell you this with all earnest. Busy is the new stupid, my friend. And you telling me that you're too busy to sit down and create a marketing strategy and plan for your 9 different businesses and the sophistication of your business, that that's something you don't have time for and that you're too busy? Good luck. Good luck. If you're ready to, bring on I'm not mad at you to help you with this, we're here. But if you're going to use that as an excuse, I don't know how much we can help you because we don't buy into that. We don't play that. We don't believe anyone's too busy. And I have a really good story about the busy thing, which I really love this story. My cousin worked for Condoleezza Rice, who was at one point our Secretary of State,
Right.
and many other roles that she had. But when she was the Secretary of State is when I had the good fortune of meeting her. And I, in fact, was on her calendar to meet her in the office, her office. So I'm literally on the Secretary of State's calendar, like Stacey Bullman. And because my cousin worked for her, she thought it was a priority to meet me. She thought that that was something that she was going to find time to meet Stacey Bullman. This is the Secretary of State. This is a woman who's literally, when we were in the waiting room to meet her, her secretary, administrative assistant is picking up the phone, and it literally, I kid you not, I really do think his name was mentioned at the time we were in there. But you're hearing her, Putin is on line 1, Bolsonaro is on line 2. You're going, my goodness. And yet she's about to sit down and meet with me. But this woman prioritized her schedule, her life in a way that something that was important to her, she was going to find the time to do. And so I use that as an example that I was flattered and, very fortunate that person, showed me that kindness and respect and, that attention. And for my cousin, that he was her lieutenant deputy. They worked 24/7 together. So, it just showed a lot of character of who she was. She also had a very famous quote that she said to all the individuals that worked for her about time. And she kind of would throw out, if I'm the Secretary of State, I ask you guys to do these things as an employee of mine. And that is get a good night's sleep, eat 1 good meal a day, and exercise at least 30 minutes a day. And back to, if I'm Condoleezza Rice and I'm running the world's operations and I can find the time to do these things, I would imagine so can you. So these type of things in my life stick with me. And I've been fortunate enough to have moments in life with certain circumstances and certain people that I admired and paid close attention to the things that they said and did, and then wanted to emulate them in certain ways.
Oh wow. I mean, obviously that I can see, I've seen it in the movies where maybe the Secretary of State is walking in the corridor, everybody's just giving them a form to sign, somebody gives a phone at them, and then they actually stop and say, "Hey Stacey, I'm not mad at ya." Wow.
I mean, it was pretty cool. It really was. It really was neat. And then also, you're in that room. You're thinking of all the people that have, because that office is the same office for every single Secretary of State. You know what I mean? So
The
it
history.
was all overwhelming, and yet she was very warm. And like I said, I didn't feel rushed. This is a person that is extremely busy, and she also didn't make me feel like she was just doing a check to check the box either. She had a very engaging conversation with me. She had just started playing golf. I'm a very good golfer. We talked about golfing one day. I told her I was going to kick her ass. She told me she was going to kick my ass. You know what I mean? Like, we had a very engaging conversation. So again, it wasn't that she just did it just to check the box. She actually was present. She had an engaging conversation with me and then asked if we would like to there was a person getting promoted and asked if we'd like to be there for this very important promotion of, really it was a manager getting promoted to another manager, an undersecretary becoming a manager. And I'm like, in corporate America, we just send out an email for that. In DC, they had champagne and press corps and all other things. I'm like, this is just basically a promotion, isn't it? And so it was fascinating, but like, we rode in the elevator with her, the secret elevator, to go upstairs to do the ceremony. I mean, she, like I said, that example that I have in my life will always stick with me. I will always use that as an example with anybody. There's not that many people that I'm going to meet that would tell me that their matters are more pressing than hers. So if she, as I say, can find time in her day to do different things like this, so can all of us. So can we.
And thank you so much for that example, because it really brings down the fact that we're not yet at the level of freedom that we think we are, because a lot of people are tethered to their phones, tethered to maybe their calendar, or tethered to whatever anyone who has time to pick up the phone has in store for them, or whatever their inbox has to say. Now, that level of freedom of being able to do that which you want, with whom you want, whenever you want, is not available to a lot of people. And you seem to have found that not only in you being able to be free and run all you want, but there's a level of freedom in everything that you're sort of doing. What does freedom look like to you today?
This, honestly, I'm living in Tulum. I travel the world. I work a lot fewer hours than I did when I worked for corporate America. I believe I'm making a bigger difference than I was when I was working for corporate America. Helping people is very liberating. To give is to receive. It really is. We can call it, and it's in all the memes. It's all over the place. I'm
Yeah. And
it's very rewarding and freeing.
oh, that is amazing. So many people go to the ends of the world just to receive that. And yet you've created that for yourself. Now, if somebody's looking at this, they're wanting to get their company a lot better, 85% results in whatever it is that they're doing, where can they go to, or how can they get on your calendar at least, so that you can stop everything you're doing and then pay attention to them like Condoleezza Rice did for you?
We are in all the normal traditional social media locations you can find us, but the easiest way to get us is www.imnotmadatyou.com. From there, you can submit an inquiry, get on our calendar, schedule a Don't Be Dumb session, future-proof your business. So we're very accessible, pretty much from the website's the central hub for access, but we are in the social media. We are on YouTube. I'm Not Mad at You is a pretty easy place to start. They can find us there. So.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely going to make sure that all those links are in the show notes, and then obviously people can get onto that. Now, Stacey, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience have got so much value for all of those that are sort of figuring out life. But it would be remiss for me to not ask. You've done quite a lot of preparation for you to run a marathon, and you've done quite a lot of preparation, 25 years to be exact, for you to be able to have this kind of freedom and this kind of knowledge of what it is that you're doing. But what's next? What are you preparing for now?
Honestly, I've never been married. This is crazy. It is not to achieve something in my business other than to continue to do what I've been doing for the last 10 years and help people. I actually am really focused on a personal goal. for myself and would like to find somebody to marry.
Wow. That's
I'm serious. I mean, it's wild. I mean, there's no other answer. I literally just had lunch with a colleague today, and I said the same thing. There's nothing. I have done everything I really would want to do. I've certainly had long-term significant relationships and done, what looks to be, but I have not. I haven't crossed the barrier to marriage, and I think it would be something else to accomplish.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I can't wait to celebrate.
You didn't expect that, did you?
Oh no, no. You see, the thing about life and business and everything else is we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. And half of the things that we venture to go out and do, they all, are sort of working alongside each other. You can't do well if you're not feeling well, and you can't be well out there if you're not also supported behind the scenes. So, like you said, your parents believed in you. You're gonna also, for you to go further, you're gonna need somebody to believe in you while you are out there, doing things or making other companies better. So yeah, everything sort of works together, but some people want to separate those particular things, and that's the reason why they actually are not getting better either in health, wealth, or their relationships. So I wish
You
you.
asked the question. I wasn't expecting you to ask the question, and you're right. Literally, or normally I would say I separate those two topics. But you know what? The authenticity of myself and this brand, the real answer is that.
Yeah,
Because we want to keep helping people, but that didn't change. Jim, like that didn't change. What is absolutely a goal line item is to see if I don't one day get into a team partnership, in a, legal way.
oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
congratulations on,
Thank you.
looking out for
We'll see.
yourself,
We'll
because
see.
so many people just chase the visible appearance of status or success without actually looking into the wholesomeness of it all. So,
Yes.
and
Yes. Thank you.
it will just position you as a whole different person, and I can't wait to celebrate that day with you as well. So thank you
I
so
hope you do, Prosper. I hope you do. I really do. You're invited.
Fantastic. Well, what a powerful reminder that obviously the race to success isn't just about speed. It's about clarity, courage, and obviously staying in your lane. So, Stacey, this has been fantastic. I am so excited for now that I know what your ultimate goal is, which is for your own personal happiness, and that alone, you definitely have my blessing. Now, for those that are watching right now, if this episode with Stacey Bullman has inspired you to maybe stop being mad at your business and just start building momentum that actually lasts, then I encourage you to maybe share this episode with somebody who needed this kind of clarity today. And, it doesn't matter where you are in your life or whatever it is that you're doing. If you are not fully connected and convinced or believe in yourself, half of the things that we think we're going to be doing ourselves might actually not work out. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. So go out there and don't be mad at yourself or mad at the world for not doing what you're supposed to have done. I can't wait to see what you're going to do with this information. Bye for now.